Welcome to this Infosecurity Europe podcast.
Hi there, my name's Maxine Holt. I'm Senior Research Director for Omdia. So my role is as an industry analyst. I focus on information security and I lead a team of 7 analysts that do the same at this research firm, Omdia. So my job involves a whole range of things. That's what's great. No 2 days are ever the same. So part of my role is about setting strategy for Omdia's security research. I'm involved in identifying new market opportunities, pursuing them. I speak with a lot of security technology vendors and service providers about what they're doing. They're so innovative. It's really interesting to hear about how they're moving forward. I get to write about security issues. I also get to present on security issues. Love being able to do those interactions. I really enjoy those. I speak with a lot of end user organizations as well about their security challenges, how they're addressing them, what's happening in the market and how those challenges might help them as well. I've been an industry analyst for 20 years now. I don't regret it for 1 minute. I learn something new every day. And one of the great things is I get paid to have an opinion, which is pretty cool. Okay, so in terms of exciting things about my job, I get to talk to a lot of people, which I really enjoy. Also, my role is really fast paced. There's always something new happening, always something new to learn. And sometimes, we might say it's a little bit too fast. It's, we have to run to keep up, but then I do get to see the results fairly quickly. And I really like doing that. So in terms of how I got into Infosec, I have to be honest and say it was a bit of an accident and a bit of good fortune, to be fair. So I have been an industry analyst for 20 years or so now. It was a role that had always intrigued me, and having a decent IT background, I was a developer, started out with good old COBOL and assembler programming languages. I then became an IT analyst and then eventually moved into consultancy. I certainly decided that kind of this hybrid role between IT and the business was what I really enjoyed. But that gave me enough skills to be able to switch into the role of an industry analyst. So when I first joined the industry, I covered lots of different aspects of IT for the first 15 years. That did include security, but I only really touched on it. And then back in 2015, I got an opportunity to join the Information Security Forum, the ISF, and absolutely leapt at the chance. I got to learn so much about information security from what is quite frankly an amazing organization, great colleagues there, as well as, of course, the ISF members. And now I never look back. I wouldn't be without information security at all. So my career to date has been kind of a little bit varied, I suppose. I mentioned my IT background. Again, that was something I fell into when I, to be honest, made a mess of the first year of my A-levels. My parents sat me down, as they do with many 17-year-olds, and told me to sort myself out. So the only course at the local college where I lived that had space left that interested me was for a BTEC in computer studies, as it was back then, and off I went. I absolutely loved it, really, really enjoyed it. Once I completed that full-time course, I got myself a trainee position, I suppose you call it an apprenticeship these days, in a financial services company. I learned on the job, programming, developing, analysis, and all sorts of things. And then alongside that job, I studied part-time for my degree. And then once I got my degree, I moved into financial services consulting, really interesting, really enjoyable, lots of travel involved with that. I then became part of the dot-com boom, worked for an amazing ISP, internet service provider. I got out before the bust, and that's when I became an analyst. So it was good timing, but also I like to think I worked pretty hard along the way as well to get where I am now. It also turned out during that career journey that I was pretty okay as a manager and as a leader. So I pursued those aspects whilst being an analyst as well. So it's worked out okay, I think. So in terms of career challenges, I suppose I'm going to have to come up with an obvious one, which is, I've worked in a lot of environments, but most of them have been male dominated. As you might imagine, I've been a woman who's worked in IT for pretty much 3 decades. I have never, ever seen being female as an issue. So where I was brought up, it's never, ever been an issue. Because it isn't, is it? It really isn't an issue. But there are still some individuals out there who think that it is an issue. And so there's always this kind of, I suppose you call it an internal push inside me to prove more just because I'm female. Now, these outdated attitudes, they are definitely improving, but casual sexism, even today, is still evident. I call it out much more now than I would have ever dared to, I think, 25 years ago when I was still finding my feet in my career. But it still happens. But I think as long as we all pull together, then we can kind of stamp these attitudes out as we move forward. If I was starting out today in my career, I would probably think about information security as such a huge area. It's massive. So do try and take in as much as you can early on, and then you can find out which bits you enjoy the most. That gives you a good grounding in what goes on in InfoSec. So as you progress, you've got understanding and empathy with colleagues. I would also say, if possible, don't limit yourself to information security. So if you've got an opportunity, as I was lucky enough to have, to work in other parts of the business, I worked in an accounts function for a few months, and it really, really helped me understand how the other side of the business interacts with IT and in this case, interacts with information security. It really gives you a much broader perspective, a much more of an appreciation about what your role in InfoSec is there to support and achieve. I also think one of the really important parts of working in information security is the need to be open-minded. You need that as an analyst, you need it to work, I think, in pretty much any role, really. The ability to listen as well as understand, not just hear, but listen and understand, so that you're not making decisions on too little information or whatever it might be. I'd also kind of call out qualifications, particularly in the InfoSec world. They're an important part of progress, but experience is really important too. So if you can combine the two on your career journey, then that's a really great place to be. So the pandemic's definitely had an impact on recruitment and attracting, developing and retaining my team. So I was lucky enough to have a Go Big initiative, if you will, for my area at the beginning of 2020, and we've maintained that throughout the pandemic. So I've recruited. Informa, which is the parent company of the Informa Tech division that I work in, has for many years been really proactive in encouraging remote working. So every single member of my team, those that I recruited last year, those that have been around for a number of years, whether they're in the UK or in the US, they all work remotely. So it's enabled me to recruit people from perhaps not, urban hubs that you might traditionally have in the past. And there's certainly a couple of people in my team that haven't yet met face to face because of the pandemic. Remote working isn't easy. We do have to try a lot harder with collaboration, as I'm sure many of you will now be familiar with, but it does work. I think for me, my role is more digital than ever. Of course, that applies to my team as well. I've done lots and lots of online presentation and events, more than I could have ever done in person last year. And that applies to everyone else in the team too. So the impact, the pandemic has had an impact. It has made me appreciate the value of travel and face-to-face contact, but also that remote working can be successful. And I did meet people pre-pandemic who said that remote working was just not practical. They've clearly been proved wrong. So to attract and retain the next generation information security workforce, I'd like to start with a piece of evidence for direct experience of myself. I was sat in a hairdresser's pre-pandemic, and I heard the lady next to me talking about her daughter being really interested in this thing called security, but there was no help at school for her. So she was encouraged into another profession or another occupation. And so I got chatting to this lady, and it turned out that this young girl, this 13-year-old girl, was really interested in cybersecurity. She'd worked out how far it was to commute to GCHQ and to the NCSC from her home. It was 4 hours, by the way, to be able to do that. And she was so interested and so excited in security, but we were really missing the knowledge in the local school about what that career is all about. So she, that's I feel, a really core starting point for attracting and retaining this next generation of the workforce. But I also think, we need the media to help. We need to make it more accessible. We don't want everybody to think you've got to be super technical, really geeky to join Infosec. For sure, we do need people like that, but we also need people who can join kind of this bigger information security community, whether it's looking at risk, whether it's looking at compliance, whether it's looking at the people aspects. There's so much more to it. So we need to be prepared to kind of have this image of geeky information security broken, and then rebuild the image into something that's much more exciting and much more accessible. Certainly not for everyone, but it is for some people. So I think as an industry, we need to be prepared to help people learn as well. Not everybody comes with lots of years of experience. So 2020, I think, has really changed the face of information security. I heard somebody saying that the pandemic had brought the future forward, which I think is a bit twee, but nevertheless, certainly I think describes the sort of thing that went on last year. I'm not especially technical, despite my developer background. I've certainly moved into the more business aspects of information security, but I have been looking more at cloud security in light of the pandemic. As a result of the pandemic, there's been this acceleration of organizational cloud journeys. There's that consequential impact on security that comes from those cloud journeys, that comes from remote working. And of course, some security is now delivered via the cloud as well. So I think this is an area that's one to watch. I know that cloud has been around for a long time, but enterprises are really concerned about this rapid change, these rapid pace of change, I suppose. Vendors and service providers are doing their absolute best, putting together some really amazing approaches that can help enterprises, but adoption can be slow. The cybersecurity landscape is really complicated. Security controls and not just about technology. We need people and process as well. And so it's quite difficult for enterprises to deal with. So for me, I would suggest that cloud security is the thing to watch for this year. My inspiration, I'll have to call out my parents. In the first place, they're giving me that big push to sort myself out and inadvertently, I suppose, helping me into IT. I don't want to call out any individual in particular in information security, but I will call out some of the ISF members that I've worked with in the past. And I still engage with these people on a regular basis. They're at the coalface of information security. And some of these people have become my friends. They're frequently my go-to source to perhaps validate an idea I have or an opinion that I'm forming. They've also been hugely encouraging as they help me get experience in Infosec. And I'm continuing to get experience in Infosec, as we all are in whatever industries and careers we pursue. So, I guess I would say that the biggest inspiration is the industry itself. It's so interesting, it's so exciting, and I really, really enjoy working in it.
Thank you for listening to this Infosecurity Europe podcast.